This is Bernice Buttman, Chapter 9, Blank Slate. It turns out St. Drogo is the patron saint of ugly people. I'm not making that up. The web page said, during a journey, he was afflicted with a horrible disease. He became so terribly mutilated that he scared the townspeople. Boy, did that sound familiar. I keep telling myself things could be different and halfway. I could be different. No one knew me or my family. I'd never threatened to push anyone's nose in dog do here or stolen any milk money. This was the beginning of a new Bernice. I might even make up a new last name. My aunt had promised to walk me to school on my first day, and Sister Marie Frances cooked up a big old pot of oatmeal for breakfast. I would rather eat the wood chips out of a hamster's cage than oatmeal, but I choked some down to be nice. I was becoming a new and improved Bernice already. The horrible thought occurred to me already that maybe the nuns had taken a vow of icky foods. I hadn't seen a cheese ball since I got here. It put me in a cold sweat. We walked out the front doors, but instead of heading down the road, Aunt Josephine steered me toward the back of the church. A dirt path wound through some high grass, and we stepped carefully toward a rickety wood fence. Horses stomped behind it, coats all shiny in the sun. They stuck their heads between the wide boards to eat the taller grass on our side. "Those the neighbors' horses?" I asked. I didn't look at her, and I hoped she didn't hear the interest in my voice. "Nope, they're ours. The sisters have had horses since St. Drogo's opened its doors in 1912. Just then a blur of black and brown streaked across the pasture. Hooves pounded the dirt, and the ground rumbled. I craned my neck to watch as Sister Marie Frances and a chestnut horse flew over a fallen log. Her head covering flapped out behind her, her fists clutching the reins. The nun and the horse disappeared over a hill, and I let out a shaky breath. What was that? I leaned against the fence, trying to steady myself from the weird adrenaline rush I'd just gotten. My aunt adjusted her head thing. I need to Google what those were called. Sister Marie Frances has a history with horses. I'm sure she'd love to tell you about it sometime. We walked along the fence line until it took a hard right and a road opened up. Just a ways further, and the halfway primary school stood in front of us, playground swarming with kids. I stopped on the sidewalk, gripping the straps of my backpack and gritting my teeth. "Anything can happen, child. Anything can be." My aunt turned my shoulders to face her and looked me right in the eyes. "You'll be fine, Bernice. Everyone's going to love you. Just be yourself." Ha, good one. My strategy was to try and be as far from myself as possible. New and improved me, bionic me, staying out of trouble and somehow raising money for stunt camp me. The first person I saw when I walked into Mr. Newton's fifth grade class was Mr. Newton himself. He leaned back in his chair behind a big metal desk and ate a Pop-Tart from a paper plate balanced on his giant belly. Belly shelf just like Mama. I smiled, even though I was more shook up than a Mountain Dew in a bike basket. He stood when he saw me. He tossed the paper plate of crummies in the trash. He had one of those mustaches that curled up on the ends, and he wore suspenders and a bow tie. The walls of the classroom were decorated with Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones posters. The smell of coffee wafted through the air, and I hoped it was a fresh brewed cup and not Mr. Newton's breath. He wasn't smiling. "Bernice Buttman?" he asked, peering at the file through round glasses. Shoot, permanent file. So much for forging a new identity. Only 3 other kids milled around the room so far. The morning bell hadn't rung yet, and they all snickered at my name. I took a deep breath and tried to plaster on a smile, but it slid off my face quick as snot on spandex. Being nice to jerks was going to take some real muscle. "That's me." My voice had a hard edge to it that cut the giggling off at the knees. "You can take a seat right there in the back of the room." He didn't look at me, but squirted a glob of sanitizer in his hands and rubbed them together furiously. I plopped down behind the only desk missing one of those taped-on name tags. A blonde girl in the front row shot her hand in the air. "Mr. Newton, excuse me, Mr. Newton." The teacher flinched at the girl's voice. "What is it, Imogene?" He sounded tired. "Would you like me to show Bernice Buttman around? I could be sort of like ambassador." He straightened his bow tie as the morning bell rang and more students filed into the classroom. "I suppose so." The girl gave me a sour smile before turning toward the front of the room. I clenched my fists under my desk and tried to think about stunt camp. Hang gliding, dog sledding, target practice. A folded up note got to me during the middle of attendance. That blonde girl had turned to stare at me again. I unfolded the pink notebook paper and got a whiff of strawberries. The pink ink had one sentence in perfect swooping cursive. See you at lunch. See you at lunch, Buttman. I managed to stay mostly invisible for the first part of the day. My head swam thinking about all the catching up they wanted me to do. I'd have to read and study every day after school. But then I remembered my cozy little room at the convent and my ancient computer that linked me to Google, and I figured, hey, what else do I have to do? Before I knew it, the lunch bell rang, and Imogene linked arms with me like we were best friends. The school cafeteria smelled exactly like my last one: peanut butter, disinfectant, and mystery meat. Lunch trays clattered and kids gabbed. My brown bag crunched in my sweaty fist. Imogene steered me over to a table near the middle where her two friends were waiting. You can sit here, she said, her teeth shining in my face. I searched far and wide for an empty table where I could sit alone like I always have, but every seat was filled. Plus, I'd never been invited to sit by anyone before, so maybe I should just go with it as part of my brand new me experiment. But Imogene gave me the creeps. She was like one of those really fancy dolls who come alive at night to kill you. I'd have to keep an eye on her. Thanks. I plopped down on the hard plastic bench. Sister Marie Frances, secret cowgirl, had packed my lunch that morning. I peeked inside and found an apple and a ham sandwich. At least it wasn't oatmeal. The fifth grade ambassador tossed her shiny hair over her shoulder. Girls, this is Bernice. She just moved here from Kansas City. Bernice, these are the girls, Christy and Heather. I stared at both of them, and they stared at me. No one spoke. No one ate. I resisted the urge to pick my nose. So, progress. Bernice, tell us about Kansas City, Imogene asked, her blue eyes skimming past mine. Well, I guess it's all right. I lived outside the big part of the city, though. Like in a suburb, Christy asked, sounding bored. More like a trailer park. I could have thrown the mic down and walked off the stage then, because all three girls stared at me, bug-eyed. Imogene cleared her throat. We don't have one of those here. I took a big bite of my sandwich and chewed. Halfway should have mobile homes, because they are halfway between a house and an RV, right? I snorted at my own joke. The girls smiled weakly at me and then got very interested in eating their chicken nuggets. Imogene made a face while I licked a blob of mayonnaise off my shirt, so I stopped mid-lick and grabbed a napkin off Christy's tray. Geez, you would think someone your size would have more experience eating, Christy said, and they all giggled like maniacs. Nobody at my old school would have dared to call me fat and then laugh at me. They would have known that a beatdown was coming. If not from me, then from one of my brothers. But I was all alone here, and I was trying to be somebody different. Somebody who didn't punch people on the first day of school. I took a deep breath and shrugged as another blob of mayo ended up on my jeans. A man wearing a plaid suit jacket with those little elbow patches walked up beside our table, and Imogene's voice got all high and weird. I can't wait to show you all around halfway primary, Bernice. I promise to do whatever it takes to make you feel welcome. The man, who was clasping his hands behind his back, smiled tightly at Imogene. Oh, Principal Jenkins, I didn't see you there. Her eyelashes blinked so fast I thought she might take flight. I see you've all met our new student. Pleasure to meet you, Bernice. I nodded dumbly. I've attended St. Drogo's with your aunt for many years now. Thank you for the computer, sir. The sister said you made sure it was ready to go. He smiled and patted my shoulder, and I heard Imogene make a sharp breath. She grabbed my arm and said in a voice loud enough so everyone in a 10-mile radius could hear, Bernice, you must come to my birthday party this Saturday. It's at my house at 4. She looked at my stained Kiss t-shirt and added in a whisper, wear something decent. I think Heather kicked Imogene under the table, but she didn't even flinch. Principal Jenkins gave our table a nod before walking off. I might have thrown up in my mouth at her suck-uppiness. Imogene was terrible, but I had my first ever birthday party invitation.